Okay, what am I going for in this thumbnail? Happy? Excited? I am very happy and I'm very excited. I don't know. Lunacy? Shame? Maybe? A mixture of all of the above? I don't know how much longer I can hold these. Whoops. Hey guys, so I'm not entirely sure how this happened, but I have quite a lot of books to show you. Some of this I was anticipating and some of it I was not. I have quite a bit to show you. So I'm going to kind of try to fly through it and maybe not linger on any one thing for too long and just try to get this book haul to be not as long as I fear it might be. So a lot of these books I got in a couple specific places. But this very first one I'll show you I didn't get at either of those places. This one is just kind of random. Giselle, my wife, was at the Dollar Tree and saw the Dollar Tree has books, a book section, and sometimes they get interesting things there and things that you're not entirely sure how they got and why they're going to be $1, but this was only $1. It is a Ghost Story by Jim Butcher, and this is, I think, the 12th of the 13th Dresden Files book. I literally just finished reading the 7th one, Deadbeat, and I am actually currently reading the 8th one, Proven Guilty. I'm listening to them, but I do want to own the physical editions of all of them as well, so this was only $1, so she got it for me. So a bunch of the rest of these are all from this specific place. Giselle and I have been to it a few times before. It's a place called the Book Barn. It's in Connecticut. It's about an hour and a half away from where we live, and Giselle and I like to go there every once in a while. We've been there, I think, 3 times now. Each of the times that we've been, we've captured it on our vlog channel, and I have already posted the vlog for this day where we went to the Book Barn and got a bunch of books. We spent a very long time there. We spent hours and hours and hours there, and we actually, both Giselle and I, took the day off specifically to go to the Book Barn because they're having a 30% off sale, everything they have, which is extremely inexpensive considering all of their prices are very cheap to begin with. I mean, it's a used bookstore, so they get lots of books all the time, every single day, and restock their shelves every single day with new stuff that they've gotten. And we actually took a whole stack of books with us there and got some store credit. So we were able to get some extra store credit. We were able to get 30% off, and we ended up walking out with a bunch of books. She got a bunch of books, and I got a bunch of books. I'll show you the ones that I got. If you're interested in seeing more of that place, I highly suggest you check out our vlogs on it. So the first 2 things I'm going to show you are actually the second and third books in a trilogy. I actually picked up the first book from the Book Barn, either the first time or the second time. I think it was the second time we went, and they're by Elizabeth Bear. The first one was called All the Wind-Racked Stars. The second one is called By the Mountain Bound, and the third one is called The Sea Thy Mistress. And I don't know about you, but like these covers draw me into this so much. If the covers are any indication of how awesome the story is, then they're going to be pretty cool. And this is like a mix of fantasy and science fiction with Valkyries and far future technologies. Just a ton of really cool sounding stuff. And I'm going to give them a try. I haven't read the first one yet, but as we all know, I tend to collect series in their entirities before I actually start reading them, but that's okay. I usually get them for like hardly any money at all. Like these were so cheap. Everything in this haul was either a couple dollars or less. So it ranges from free to a couple dollars. Not all from the Book Barn. This whole entire haul is free to a couple dollars, and that's it. And we also picked up finally a copy of The Martian by Andy Weir. I've read this twice now, and I love it, but I've never owned it. They just kept putting out the movie cover, and I love the movie. The movie was one of my favorite movies when it came out. I really wanted to own the original cover, and I never saw it anywhere, like a used bookstore for cheap, and I found it at the Book Barn for very, very cheap. It was kind of lucky because we were about to leave. It was actually the last, we were really, literally about to leave, and it was one of the last books that we picked up on this table. They hadn't even sorted it out yet into the section it was supposed to go in. So, and then I found these 2 books by Kate Atkinson. These are the first one is the first book she ever wrote, I'm pretty sure, and the second one is its sequel, and so it's Case Histories and One Good Turn. So I was looking up some mystery detective thriller novels that I could possibly try out, and these showed up as ones that I might like, so I thought I would give them a shot. and I've just been looking for more mysteries like this, so I'm gonna see if I like them. The next thing is called Darwinia by Robert Charles Wilson. This one, this author, I just read his latest book last year. The book is called Last Year, and it came out last year. It came out at the beginning of December of 2016, and I reviewed it, actually. And I really enjoyed that. I enjoyed his writing, and I really want to try more of his work, and they had this one there. So I was like, oh, they have one of his books here. I'll try it and see if I like the other stuff that he's written. I know his most popular books are a book called Spin and its sequels. Spin won the Hugo Award, but they didn't have any of those there. So I decided to pick up this one. The next three all go together, and they're quite big, and they're all by Tad Williams. This is Otherland, and then the second one is Otherland, River of Blue Fire. I think the first one, its tagline is missing for some reason from the front, but it's called City of Golden Shadow. So this is the Otherland trilogy, I guess, or series. I don't know if there's more after these three, but Otherland, City of Golden Shadow, then River of Blue Fire, and then the third one is Mountain of Black Glass. So these are some pretty thick books. I've heard some good things about Tad Williams. I've also heard some not so good things about Tad Williams recently. But I would really love to try these out and try his work out. I've heard good things about these ones specifically. So when I saw them, I was like, those are really cheap for these gigantic hardbacks. I should definitely get them and then read them. So I'm going to read these. I do know that this trilogy, it takes place in like a near future for us in this world. And it's about this place called Otherland where like fantasies and can come true and all these different things can happen. Anything that you can imagine can happen or something like that. But it's like controlled by the very wealthy. And it sounds interesting. So I'm going to give it a shot. Sounds like a nice mix of fantasy, science fiction, and our own world. So, and then I saw these at the one of the mystery sections in one of the buildings. And I decided to get them because I love this author's work, and I don't have these ones yet. These in paperback. I read all these actually already. I read all three of these and enjoyed them all. And I listened to them on audiobook, but I wanted to read them physically at some point, so I got them. So I got Darkness Take My Hand, which is the second book, Sacred, which is the third book, and Prayers for Rain, which I believe is the fifth book. It's either the fifth book or the sixth book in the Kenzie Gennaro series by Dennis Lehane. It's a detective thriller series, and I really like this series a lot. I love the two detective main characters. I've talked about all of these on my channel before in old like weekly wrap-ups or monthly wrap-ups. I guess I was doing monthly wrap-ups back then, but I've talked about them all on this channel before and how much I like them and how much I like him. And then when I looked up Dennis Lehane and looked up authors similar to him because I really like him, I wanted to see who else I could find that was similar to him that could be recommended to me if I liked him. And I found this author named Robert Crace. And I don't know anything about him specifically, but these were very highly recommended. His work was very highly recommended, so I got The Watchmen and The First Rule, which are both a part of a series, I believe. This one is the first, and this one is the second. So, yeah, I'm going to give his work a shot. And then another author that kind of came recommended with that was an author called Lawrence Block. And I found a couple of his things there. This one is called All the Flowers Are Dying, which came very heavily recommended by people who liked similar stuff to Dennis Lehane, and The Sins of the Fathers. And I believe these are both part of a series that can be read out of order, and it's got like a lot of books in it, and obviously they didn't have all of them, and I believe you can just read them whenever you feel like reading them. And I don't usually read stuff that way, but I think I might make an exception for these. And then the last one to go along with those lines is Lauren D. Esselman, Whiskey River. So all of Dennis Lehane's stuff usually takes place in Boston or Massachusetts. He is to Boston what she is to Detroit, but this is like historical fiction, crime, detective stuff set in Detroit. I believe this one takes place in the 20s and involves the mob in some sort of way. So that should be fun. And the last four things that I got from the Book Barn all go together. I've heard really good things about the series, and actually from a few different sources, and I looked it up myself, and I've been wanting to read it for a while. I was going to read it on Hoopla, which is similar to Overdrive. I was going to listen to them on there, but I really don't like the way Hoopla does things. I really don't like their audiobook player. and so I was kind of disappointed that I didn't like the way they did things, and so I couldn't listen to them. So I was happy to find the physical editions of them for very, very cheap at the Book Barn. So I found the first 4 in the series. There are 6 in the series. I found A Dance of Cloaks. This is the Shadow Dance series by David Dalglish, and then A Dance of Blades is the second one, and then A Dance of Mirrors, and then A Dance of Shadows. And I know Michael J. Sullivan really likes this series. And they're about these assassins, and they're going up against these other assassins guilds and these nobles, and it just sounds like a lot of fun. There's like an assassin and his apprentice, and yeah, so I'm hoping to like them. But to go along with those, Giselle and I also went a few days later to the Boston Public Library sale, as we do every few months with Steve. There's actually a vlog of that day as well, where we went to the Boston Public Library and we hung out with Steve for a while, and went to the Bardo bookstore, which is another used bookstore. And so while we were at the Boston Public Library, they very fortunately, which was kind of crazy to me, a huge coincidence that I couldn't really believe, they had the 5th book to this series as well, A Dance of Ghosts. So now I have the first 5. I thought that was really cool, so I decided to get it. I have the first 5 in the series, and I'm just really excited to read them. This is something I would love to start reading this year. I know I've got a bunch of other series to read, but I'm pretty sure I'm going to at least insert the first one into this year's reading at some point, and if I really enjoy it, then I'll continue on with the second one right away, probably, and we'll see how that goes. But yeah, I've had a huge interest in reading this series, so I grabbed it. I did get one other thing at the Boston Public Library, but I'll get to that more in a second. While we were with Steve, we went back to his house, and he gets a billion books every single day from publishers all the time, and so he reads them. He reads a ton of books every single day. He reads a ton of books every month, every year, and so he had just this giant pile of books that he was just getting rid of. He was going to give them all to the Brattle bookshop anyway, so he was just going to get rid of them all anyway, so he let me and Giselle kind of pick through them and take anything that we were interested in. This is usually how it goes when you go to Steve's house. He's a very generous person. He's amazing. Wonderful to talk to about books and booktube and just anything in general. And he just knows a lot. And it's great to kind of look through his books and ask, oh, did you like this? What do you think of this? And like, if something sounds interesting, then I'll give it a shot. Maybe something he didn't like, I might like instead. So I'll take it, and or he'll just recommend something to me. So it'll be cool. But he was going to get rid of these, and I couldn't believe it. It's a full set of the Penguin Galaxy series. Penguin just released these last year, towards the end of last year, these science fiction and fantasy editions called Penguin Galaxy, and they are The Left Hand of Darkness by Ursula K. Le Guin. I have read Earthsea by Ursula K. Le Guin, but I have not read Left Hand of Darkness or anything else by her, but I'm really happy to have this edition of it. I actually do have another edition of that book already that I bought really cheap at a thrift store. And then I have Stranger in a Strange Land by Robert A. Heinlein, which I have already read. I literally just read this in January. I kind of wish I had this lovely edition at that point, but that's okay. I listened to it, and I did like it for the most part. I really, really enjoyed the first half, and the second half was like kind of weird and crazy. But I'll probably reread this at some point and see how that second half goes for me a second time around. But I did really enjoy the first bit of this, so I'm really happy to have such an amazing edition of it. And then this one is a science fiction classic that I haven't read yet. It's Neuromancer by William Gibson, and I know lots of people that really like this one, and it's rather beautiful as well. And of course, 2001 A Space Odyssey by Arthur C. Clarke. This is actually shorter than I realized this book was, and I've actually never seen this movie before. I should probably see the movie at some point. But I'm also glad to be able to now read the book. And then one of my favorite books of all time, I read this book in 2014 and reviewed it on this channel. It is Dune by Frank Herbert. I freaking love this edition of Dune. It's kind of wonderful. And I'm going to definitely be rereading Dune at some point. And what better way to reread it than out of this edition? So it's amazing. And then the last Penguin Galaxy edition is The Once and Future King by T.H. White, which Steve loves, but Giselle actually really doesn't like. But I'm going to read it and give it a shot because it's something I've always been interested in, reading more King Arthur kind of stuff. So yeah, I'm really happy to have this. It's nice and thick. Definitely going to try to read this at some point very soon, because I also have the Boston Public Library sale. Steve pointed this out to me, and it is the Book of Merlin, which is kind of like a follow-up to everything that's in this. So it'll be great to have both of these. And this one says the true last chapter of the once and future king. So I couldn't believe he was about to get rid of them. Look at that sword on the back. Awesome. I can't believe he was about to get rid of them, and I saved them. They will have a very happy home here. I'm actually going to put them right back there, right next to Brandon Sanderson. So the next thing that I got, I actually was going to grab this from the Brattle. I was going to buy it, but then Steve put it away and was like, no, don't buy that. I have it at home. I'll give it to you. And I literally just bought the first one to this. It is The Wall of Storms by Ken Loo. I just bought the first book, which was the Grace of Kings, and this is the Dandelion Dynasty series, or trilogy. But it's nice and thick, and I've heard amazing things about these. I can't wait to finally read them. And I did talk about it a little bit in my last haul where I showed the first one. So I'm happy to have this one as well. And then I just kind of rummaged through the piles of books that he had, and he would recommend some to me, and I just kind of grabbed some that I was interested in. The next one is a fantasy, the first in a fantasy series called The Tides of War by James A. Moore. This just came out at the beginning of the year. It's called The Last Sacrifice. And it was published by Angry Robot, and I haven't actually gotten anything from Angry Robot myself, so I thought I would give one of their publications a shot and see if I like it. It's nice and short, so I'm hoping to get to it, and I would love to review it sometime in the next couple months whenever I have a free moment from the other stuff I have to review. And then one that is very highly anticipated by a lot of people, and he had 2 copies of it, so I grabbed one of them. It is Lincoln in the Bardo by George Saunders. This one I would love to read very soon. Probably within the next week or so, and try to get a review up of it. It comes out on Valentine's Day, I believe, so it's not out yet, but a lot of people have been really highly anticipating this. George Saunders, this is his first book. He's a very prolific short story writer, I believe. I honestly don't know much about him or about this, but I've seen it frickin' everywhere, so I'm hoping to like it too. We'll see. Yeah, it's very highly recommended, and I will see how I feel about it. And then the next one is, the next 2 are 2 thrillers that Steve, I don't think, had any interest in, because he's not big into them, but I thought sounded pretty interesting, and that's What You Don't Know by Joanne Chaney. I kind of just want to read the inside flap to you. This is like a detective thriller kind of thing. 7 years ago, Detective Paul Hoskins and his larger-than-life partner, Ralph Lauren, solved one of the biggest serial murder cases of the decade. They dug up 33 bodies in a crawl space belonging to the beloved Jackie Seaver, a pillar of the community and a successful businessman. Sammy Peterson was the lead reporter on the case. Her byline was on the front page of the newspaper every day. Seaver's wife, Gloria, claimed to be as surprised as everyone else. Today, Hoskins has been banished to cold cases. Sammy is selling makeup at the mall, and Gloria is trying to navigate a world where she can't escape condemnation. And Seaver, he's watching the show. But when a series of new murders occurs, and the victims are all somehow connected to Seaver, Gloria is once again thrust into the spotlight, and Hoskins and Sammy realize this may be their chance to get their lives back, even if it means forfeiting their humanity in the process. So this one, I think, just came out this past week on the 7th of February, and I'm going to try to read it once again, hopefully soon, so I can do a review of it. Close-ish to its release date. I mean, it's already after its release date, but I'll try to review it as soon as I can. And another one that I believe also comes out on the 14th on Valentine's Day is The Last Night at Tremor Beach by Miquel Santiago. I don't know if that's how you correctly pronounce his name, but this is a Spanish writer, and this was originally written in Spanish and has been translated to English. And it is about a composer who is one day in Iceland struck by lightning and begins to have these weird, bizarre dreams. So, sounds like fun. And once again, I would love to review this sometime close to its release day. I have a lot of other stuff to read in that regard to review, but it's one that I would love to post something about in the very near future. And then one that also just came out, its release day was on the 7th as well, Norse Mythology by Neil Gaiman. This is Neil Gaiman's take on Norse mythology. I believe he just kind of takes all of the ideas from it, all of the mythos, and puts it into a story that suits his own sort of style and flavor. And it's a very short one, actually. And this is another one that I would love to get to soon. We'll actually see how many of these I can actually get to and review in the next little while, but I'm hoping there'll be a kind of a slowdown in what I've chosen to review myself, what I've asked for from publishers myself to review, and then I can kind of put these in and review them whenever I get the chance. And that's the same for a couple of these other ones. They all come out. They've all either come out already or they come out soon. The next one is History Is All You Left Me by Adam Silvera. This one has been very highly lauded already, and I know Steve really liked it, and it's a YA book, actually. All I know about it is that it's some sort of contemporary YA kind of thing in the vein of maybe like John Green, but maybe not quite like John Green, maybe a little bit better, hopefully. Like I said, it's been very highly praised so far. It came out in January, and I would love to give this author's work a shot, because he had like 2 or 3 books published within the time frame of a year or something, like debuts published that quickly, so that's pretty cool. Next one is called At the Edge of the Universe by Sean David Hutchinson. This is the author of We Are the Ants, which I've heard good things about, and this is another YA book. This is a sci-fi YA, and from what I can tell, it's about a guy who just suddenly ceases to exist and disappears, and no one remembers him except for this one other guy. This is one Steve was just like, here, take this one, I'll give it a shot, see what you think about it. And so I will do that at some point. And I mean, goes along with all these other ones where I hope I can read it and review it at some point, but we'll see. The next one is actually a nonfiction. It is called Know This. It's edited by John Brockman. It's kind of like a series of articles and writings from scientists about various different topics, and it sounds interesting, so he gave it to me, and I've had a huge interest in this kind of thing recently. Last year I read a few nonfiction books that were sort of like this, and I talked about them in my weekly wrap-ups and stuff, so this might be another one that I can hopefully enjoy. And then I also grabbed this. He had another copy of this. Sounds really cool. It's Power of Darkness, the lost version of Dracula by Bram Stoker, but also by Valdemar Asmundsen, and translated from the Icelandic by Hans Cornel de Roos. So this is like the Icelandic version of Dracula. Apparently, the original translator of Dracula from its original language into Icelandic was translated into a completely different story by this guy, Valdemar Asmundsen. He changed everything about the story. He made it shorter and just changed a lot of stuff. And no one really knew that he did this until this guy came along and translated it back and put it into English. And so this is Valdemar Asmundsen's interpretation of Bram Stoker's Dracula. And that sounds honestly very fascinating. And I really love Dracula a lot. It's one of my favorites. And so I'll give this a shot. I believe it came out. It came out December last year. Yeah, so like I said, it sounds fascinating, and I'll definitely be reading that at some point. And the final book was another one that Steve was just going to get rid of, and it is Edgar Allan Poe's collected works, just stories and poems. And I love Edgar Allan Poe. He was one of my favorites. He's always been one of my favorites that I had to read in school. I didn't really like reading a lot of stuff they made us read in school, and everything that we ever read by him, and we read a lot by him, I always really enjoyed, and I haven't really revisited his stuff since school, and I would really like to. That's it. That's all the books. It's a lot of books. Thanks for sitting through this and watching. I really appreciate it. Didn't mean for this to happen, and with any luck, I will not be getting anything else. At the moment, I don't plan on buying myself anything else. I know I've said this several times now, but we couldn't pass up the Book Barn sale. Obviously not. A lovely day off at the Book Barn. We couldn't pass up the Boston Public Library sale. We couldn't pass up grabbing stuff from Steve, because he just kind of is generous and let us take a bunch of stuff. We could not pass it up. So we got quite a lot. I got quite a lot here, and thank you guys so much for watching. If you have any comments on anything that I showed, if you have any interests specifically in anything that I showed, especially the stuff that's coming out this year, and anything that you'd be interested in seeing my opinion on that I got that you would love for me to review specifically, then I would love to hear about that. And any opinions you have on anything else, if you've read any of this stuff, definitely let me know what you think about them. Any of the authors that I don't quite know much about, like these mystery authors that I showed you. Anything else, I'd love to hear your opinions and your thoughts. Thank you guys so much for watching. Really appreciate it, and I will see you later with more.